Hello. So this week I'm going to go over the second part of your coursework that you need to do. I know most people were getting on with the website stuff, and I'm hoping that everybody has done it because you're going to use it as part of your P2. Um, Essentially, what you need to write for P2, I'll go through on this slide that I've got set up. But what I'm going to get you to do is write it and then put it onto a web page, so then you can make it look a bit more presentable and a bit nicer. If you put it on a web page, it'll make it look loads better. And I'm going to give you 2 weeks to do the assignment, so not 1 week this time, 2 weeks, because I want you to actually get the information down, which should take you a week, and then the second week should be putting it on a website. So that should be plenty enough time. And if you've got any problems, let me know, because that's the whole point. Most people did okay on the last assignment. You need to look at it and redo it if you need to. If you've had it marked and it says that it needs to be redone, I've left you feedback on all of it. So make sure that you do have a look, please, because that will be something that I'll be going over next week. So if nobody's touched it since I marked it this week, I'll be having words with you on Tuesday or Wednesday. Anyway, that being said, I'm going to get straight into it. This one is not a very long one. So I'm going to go over P2. P2 in this instance is just describe the role of web architecture. So it sounds scary, web architecture. It's not. It'll probably be as long as P1, maybe even shorter than P1. It is not that bad. It's a lot more interesting, I think, and I think you guys will love it as well. So you've got to talk about these 5 things. Now, you may have already talked about World Wide Web before, but a lot of these are a lot easier, so don't worry about it too much. But essentially what the task is going to be is produce a web page that explains these web architecture things. So there's only 5 things you need to cover, and it's really straightforward and really easy. I have put on this PowerPoint links now, so if you want to click each one and then link it on my actual notes, so when you read this separate, if you do want to read this separate, I've left links on there so you can actually look at each one. Let me know if that works. If it doesn't, then I won't bother putting them on anymore, but I spent time trying to do that, so please use it if you want to. So I'll kick off with websites. So you've already started doing websites. Now, as you will all know, because you all did color.html, which we did the other week, or index.html, or at least a HTML file of some sort, a website is a group of those HTML files stored together on a server. So that is the basic definition of what a website is. You shouldn't need to look that up because it's on this video. If you copy and paste it, again, I will find out, because a lot of people tend to copy and paste and don't even watch these. So please use that as your definition to start with. So with websites, they're uploaded to a server via FTP. So that's something called a file transfer protocol. It's on the keywords in the bottom right here. It basically is just a set of rules on how your file is uploaded to a server, and that's it. You connect to the server with a login usually, and then you can transfer your web files onto it. Obviously, all the web pages are linked together using hyperlinks, which you should have all used by now, which is basically being able to link one page to another. So you just click on the link and it'll take you to another web page. That's how websites work. You click on links and you'll be able to move between them. It's that straightforward. So you just need the most basic definition of websites, and then just explain how you upload them and how they're linked together. And give an example of one. You all know what a website is. You'll all have used YouTube or something before. That's a website. You'll have probably used Google. You'll have used Amazon. Things like that. They're all websites. Just explain what that website is and what it does, and that's it. And then websites is done. It's that straightforward. An internet service provider. I imagine if you've all got internet at home, which I believe all of you have, you will use one of these. So it's basically just someone that provides you access to the internet. So that can be people like BT, Sky, Virgin Media, TalkTalk, like any of these, like PlusNet, anybody like that. They are types of internet service providers. Now, on here, I've put how many people are actually subscribed to them. So there's 9 million people that use BT Internet. 9 million people. That's a lot. Obviously, as you go down the line, there's less and less because some of them are not as popular. Um, just to make everybody aware, I do not want the numbers. I'm just sort of giving you an idea of how big some internet service providers are over others. If I see this copied, I will know that you've not listened to what I've said. So do not copy these numbers. You don't need to copy these numbers. I'm just giving you them as an example. But basically, what they do is they provide the equipment. So they provide all the routers, the telephone lines used to connect to the internet. You need to explain that they use the telephone lines, and they provide you with a service and a router slash box for you to get onto the internet, or a modem to get onto the internet. So you can either access like websites, as it says on here, or email, or voice over IP, which if you use Discord, that uses VoIP, so voice over IP. It kind of speaks for itself. So it's literally just that. I just want you to explain what an internet service provider is, what they give you, so any equipment like a router, telephone lines, the actual service itself, usually support as well. You can mention support, so if you have any problems, they can sort it out for you. And then you need to name at least one of these, like BT or something like that, and just say that they're one of the internet service providers in this country. And if you got any more info with BT, say like they offer speeds up to a certain amount, you need to say where you've got that information from. So if you get it off the website, just say that BT from this web address. So you would, if we went on to full screen, I went on here a second. So if you were to go on to BT speeds, so this is a speed test, but we don't want the speed test. Yes, okay. So we don't want that. So if we go on fibre broadband here, so further down the list, you should see what speeds you can get. So the web page is not loading for some reason. Oh, there we go. So yeah, so they're the speeds, and if you look, it's from this address. So you'd need to copy this address and put it into your work and say BT from this web address. Say that their fibre of 250 can go up to 300 megs, which is ridiculously fast. Like that is really, really, really fast. So make sure you talk about this when you're doing your assignment, because you need to. You need to write, at least enough to make sure you can show what you're talking about is accurate to your examiner. Now, web hosting. Web hosting is really simple. Web hosting is literally who will run your website for you. Now, obviously you can run it at home, but that means you need to use your own electricity and you need to have your own security and stuff like that. So what you tend to do is you get somebody else to do it for you. Now, usually they cost, or you can have it for free. If you do have it for free, it doesn't come with as many features. It might not be as secure. So you usually tend to pay for some because they give you that security. They give you like better storage or better performance. You need to mention this. So paying for it will give you either better storage, better performance, or better security. Again, they'll use FTP servers so you can upload your files via FTP. They offer database support. Now, the reason you need a database is if you've got login details, which I imagine a lot of you have for websites, they need a database, because how can they remember who you are? So a database will remember like people or anything you've bought off Amazon. Like Amazon has a database for all their products that they've got, for example. So you need to talk about that. Obviously, the website's available through the World Wide Web, because obviously it's websites, so it's available through that. It may have advertising when you host it on a website. So if we were to look again onto our browser and go on to something like let's go on to Xbox actually, because that's a good example. So go on to Xbox and let the site load. You can see that they will use their own website for stuff like this. Like they are promoting their own things. If we were to go on something like, let's just put any old magazine company in. Magazine, not magazine. So let's have a look. So magazine online. So the newsstand. Let's go on that. So they've got stuff on here about whatever, but it's not going to prove my point, which is annoying. Let's go back. Let's try something like the sun. Because this will make it a lot clearer. So, as you can see, this is the Sun's normal website. It's taking a while to load. Yeah, fine by me. So they've got this stuff here. Now, usually you'll have seen this before where you get ads in the corners and stuff like that. I'm hoping these guys have ads on. Yeah, so this is an ad here. So, again, it might be because of the hosting site they're with, but they might put actual ads onto your website depending on what you pay for. Obviously, this generates revenue for the Sun as well, so they will get advertising money for putting ads on. But it might be that when you put a website on web hosting, they might, put advertisements on. It all depends on who you go with. Now, I want you to give examples of web hosting services. If you literally type in web hosting and then put UK, say, on Google, you'll find loads. FastHosts is one. Lonos is one as well. GoDaddy is one of the biggest ones. But let's go on FastHosts for now. And I would want you to explain, after you've already talked about what a web host is and the features of it, I want you to give an actual example. So again, you'd need to use the link at the top and say, right, this is FastHosts, it's from here. And as you can see, for £2.50 a month, you get this sort of stuff. So 10 gigs of storage, two databases, and you get mailboxes. But for £5 a month, you get more than that. You can have more than one website, for example. You can have 3, and then you can have 100 websites on Ultimate. That's a lot. You need to mention this stuff. So say paying more will get you more things. That's the whole point of this this criteria. So, obviously with this, explain everything beforehand and then give an example. And this will be absolutely fine. It's really, really, really straightforward. It's really nice. So, domain structure. Again, this should be really easy because you'll have seen these before. So, these sort of links at the bottom, this is a URL which I've talked about before. Uniform Resource Locator. So, it's how you find things online. Each section is divided up into certain things. That's why it's got certain points in it. So at the very beginning, we've got this HTTP : //. That is the protocol it uses. So that's the set of rules it uses in order to obviously send your website through. I've talked about this before. So the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So it uses it to transfer this website that you're looking at to you. That's pretty straightforward. The first bit, www. So you know that's World Wide Web. That's called a subdomain. Basically what we're saying is we're using the World Wide Web in order to get all the rest of this website through. So we're using the World Wide Web. Now, obviously through the internet, you might not use the World Wide Web because you could use, if you're using email for example, you wouldn't have www at the front. If you're using email, it might be something like it'd probably be blank. You probably wouldn't have anything. It might be HTTP, or it might not even be HTTP. This could be anything. This could be IMCP, which is for emails, or it could be FTP. You can use FTP. If you typed in FTP and then a website, it might try and connect to its FTP servers. You can upload more web pages to it, but obviously because it's got a login, it won't let you through. So you don't have to use www. It's just that for websites you'll use www. So you'd have to explain that this tells the browser what you want to go through, and this is the World Wide Web, and that's a subdomain. The Y is just the name of the website, just a domain name, and that is it. So the website.com is just the name. What this would realistically be is a set of numbers. So I don't know if anybody will have seen, and I'll put it on screen just so you can see. So if we look at IP addresses, which you will have seen before, and I do apologise for my internet being incredibly slow. I'm not sure why it's being incredibly slow. In fact, I'm going to close that. So let's type in IP addresses. See if that makes it any quicker. IP addresses, they're basically a set of numbers that you use. Oh, I believe my internet's completely gone, actually. That would explain why. Well, that's a bit of a shame. Oh well. That's probably why it's not working. That's fine. I can do that a different way then. So let's try this way instead. So, this is something I was drawing earlier. Just ignore that. Whoops. Here we go. Right, so with IP addresses, you've probably seen something like 192.168.1. something. When you've been looking on your router or anything, you've probably seen this number somewhere else before. Now, what a domain name does is change a website which will run in a number like this. So a website, say like Google, so google.com, might be that number. It's just that what's easy to remember, is it this? So is that easy to remember, or is this number easy to remember? And as obviously we know, google.com, so this here, that is easy to remember than this one. So a domain name is just sort of this section here where it says google.com. That's the actual name of the website itself. Now, it would be a set of numbers, but because humans don't really remember numbers in that sort of way, I'm not going to remember Google as being that number. And I'm not saying it is that number, by the way. That's just me guessing. But it might not be that at all. So it depends on what your website is, but the domain name will change depending on obviously what your website is. But essentially, that is the name of the website. That's all you need to remember. It should be a set of numbers, and you can explain that. Say this should be a set of numbers that would help computers find the website, but instead we use this instead for it to work. So we use names. So links. So if you've ever used your files before, so say I was to do this, I'm going to show you what's on screen right now, full screen. So with this is my recordings that I'm doing for you guys like right now. So if I go into level 2, if I click on this, you can see that I've got, say, like G, then work, then recordings, then whatever. So where this orange one is, links here, that is basically just the folder that it's in. So if I had a website called work.com, then the folder that it'd be in would be recordings. Yeah? The HTML file might be here, so it could that could be color.html. So where it says index.html, that's just the file, and we've all done that before. So the color.html or whatever, that is just the file that it's loading, the HTML file. It's pretty straightforward stuff. With files, I'll go over why it's called index.html when we do more website stuff, but usually you call index.html your home page. So just to let you guys know that. So like I said, domain name, it's got to be unique as well for each website, because if you were to have a website with the exact same name, how do you tell which one is which? It's like having a house number. So if you had number 45 and say like on I don't know, something like 45 Waterway Lane or something like that, if you have another house that's 45 Waterway Lane on the same road, how do you tell which one is which? Well, you can't, because they've both got the exact same number. So same for websites, it has to be different for each website. No two websites can have the same name. It's impossible. You have to have different names. So you can have stuff like google2.com because it's Google 2, not Google. Obviously, somebody might own that somewhere. Who knows? But I imagine Google probably own it. We could try that out if my internet was actually working, but unfortunately, it's gone down, which is a bit annoying. So obviously, the domain name is part of the URL, which I explained before, and it's used instead of IP addresses, again, which I've mentioned before. So for domain name registrars, domain name registrars are just um, uh, companies that you use to give you a name. So obviously with a website you need to have a name, and these domain name registrars will give you a name for a price. Depending on if you've ever done this before or seen your parents or anything like that do this before, but if you've seen license plates, they work on the same idea. You have to buy a certain license plate or vanity plate or anything like that from the DVLA, and they will authorize it and say, yeah, that's, you can use that for your car. Same for this. You have to buy a name online so you can actually use it. And what they'll do is when you type that name in, the registrars will automatically send it out to most of the major sort of other websites of the world, like Google and stuff like that. So if you ever use that name, you'll be able to find that website. So they do all that for you. So you pay for that service, and it's literally can range from £1 up to thousands of pounds. And just to sort of give you an idea, because my internet is now working again, if we were to go on to domain name registrar, so let's go on to 123reg.com because they're a domain name registrar. I'm hoping I can use them. I don't think I can, so let's go back a second. But that is one of them. I think, if I remember rightly, whoops. So if we go GoDaddy domain name, so they do sell domain names. So on here, you can type in the domain name you want to actually buy. Let's try and see how much Google 2 would go for, and if you can buy it. So Google2.com is taken. Surprise, surprise. So you can't actually get that. But it says that they might be able to still get the name for you for 50 quid. So that's for the entire year, but you'd have to pay 50 quid to get it. If I put my own name in, let's just see how much richardgent.com would take, and it's actually taken, so I cannot get it. However, it's offered me alternatives, so I could have richardgents.com. That's £1 for a year. £1. That's pretty good. That is really, really good for prices. That's really, really cheap. Richardgents.co.uk again, 84p, really cheap. Let's just type in Google, and it hasn't come up with any others, which is a bit annoying, but essentially they will take that name, but that might be worth thousands and thousands of pounds. I'm trying to think of something that would be expensive. Let's try Fortnite. So there's nothing there either, but a lot of these will be cheap, but you can get some that are really expensive. If I remember rightly, I think Josh was really expensive last time I looked, and it looks like they've gone back up. But literally, you just go onto a domain name registrar and go, right, I want this name, and they will suggest you names that are not taken, and you can pay for that and have that as your name for a year. Usually it's a rolling contract, so every year you'd have to pay a certain amount. So it might be a quid, then it might be 10 quid, depending on how much traffic your website gets. But I remember some websites or website names being really expensive. Let's try another one. Let's try something like just a generic term, because they tend to be quite high. So if you try and get generic terms, they tend to be really, really expensive. Let's try food, because why not? Again, some of them, but these are not very memorable. Foodn.co.uk and Food4, not very good in terms of being expensive. But usually you can find web domains that are a lot more expensive. And I'm trying to find them, but I can't find any. Whoa, it just went through loads then. So let's go on to domain name registrar. Let's try this one. So I think that's just a website for viewing stuff. You can't actually view names online, which is a bit annoying. Let's try name.com. So let's try and find again Google. Let's see what it comes up with. So if you want Google's.security, that's $2,000 for that name. So as you can see, some will be expensive to get because if you try and get something that's associated with something you already know, that might generate more traffic for you. So people might accidentally put it in, and they'll come to your website. That's why they charge more for it, because Google obviously haven't taken that name, so you can buy that if you want to. If you've got £2,000 laying around, if you have, I would recommend you probably spend it on something a bit better than that. But yeah, that's domain name registrars. You literally buy your name for your website. They will take you to where you need to go, and they will provide other websites with your name as well, just in case anybody else, like Google, if you want it in a search engine, they'll obviously let you find it. And you can only keep it for a year. So you keep it for a year, then you have to rebuy it again. And it can go up and down in price. So the names can change in price depending on what happens, essentially. So that's it. What I'm going to say to everybody is, I know it's a long video. I'm not breaking this one down into chunks because it flows quite nicely, but I will if people want me to. This stuff should be fairly straightforward. It is not that hard. If you need help, I can help you out. Because it's literally just explaining websites, internet service providers, and then domain name registrars and web hosting and stuff like that. It's really straightforward. If you watch these videos, you'll be fine. If you do need any help, obviously contact me. I'm not going to say it's easy, and then if you do find it difficult, I'm not going to help you. Like, if you find it difficult, I will help you. But I'm giving you 2 weeks. 2 weeks to sort this out. So it should be plenty enough time for you to get the information down and then put it onto a website or web page, hopefully. So give it a go, and if you get stuck, just let me know, and I'll try and help you out. But other than that, I will see you at some point in the week.